Rise and Shine roommates. It's your girl, Lasacia Turner, and I'm here with podcaster, mentor, and an all-around businesswoman, Mazda Miles. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you? Glad to be here.
I'm good. I just want to first off thank you for answering my call. This is my first phone interview, so I'm very excited.
Oh, it's excellent. Congrats.
So I just want to learn, how did you get all into the business? What made you start, and what gave you motivation?
Yeah, so my very first business, I shouldn't say my first business. I'm somewhat of a serial entrepreneur. I've had a few. But when I started the business that I built to be a seven-figure business, and it's my staple and pays me and pays others and really is the main business, Perfection Events. That was 10 years ago. It was the middle of the last Great Recession, which was a really big one in the middle of 2010. And what happened was, just honestly, I had the idea years and years before, but we were in the middle of this recession. There was a lot going on. I was getting laid off, and I just really knew that it was time for me to, quote unquote, bet on myself. Everybody was getting laid off. And I was like, okay, so if I go find another job, what's the probability, possibility, and certainty that this won't happen to me again? And I was kind of tired of life happening to me. And I decided I wanted to be able to take my life by the reins and start my own business. So I had been doing corporate event planning and meeting planning for corporations. That was my main job. I had been doing that and had the experience, and I decided that I would start my own business doing it for myself. So that's what got me into it.
That sounds great. So when it comes to your business inside of corporate, did you build it out of college, or was it just something you naturally learned how to do? And I'm asking this because a lot of people in my generation, I feel like, are pushed into college when we all have natural abilities to have our own business or have our own talent, where college doesn't need to be implemented into our lives. So I just want to understand, was it a part of your journey, or did you just sprout out on your own?
Yeah, so college, I went to college like most young people. Your parents tell you need to, you have to, right? That's what you need to do. And what happened was, I actually was in an accident that kept me from returning my second semester, my second year, sorry, in college. So I completed a year, and over the summer I had an accident, and they didn't renew my scholarships because I couldn't work. There was a lot that went on with that. And I made the decision that I did not want to go into a ton of debt for something I wasn't even sure about, right? Like, I was doing it, but I wasn't passionate about college. And so I went into the workforce, and I'm a huge proponent of folks getting a trade, getting a skill, and going into a workforce. So I do not have a degree, and I've built a seven-figure business, and very often I am giving advice to corporate officers and large businesses and speaking to them through strategy. At this point, I may at some point go back and do it, but it would very much be, I would likely be able to, based on my experience, I would be eligible to not have to do the bachelor's. Like, I could probably go straight to my master's because I have that, obviously, an experience. So no, I didn't take the college path, and I am a big proponent of other people doing what works for them.
So what really grabs me from your profile on your Instagram is that you are, like I introduced you, an advocate for everybody. And right now, I just want to step into small businesses, because I know that's what a lot of people I know do. People struggle the first step getting in. It's very hard. And it's very misleading sometimes when you go from people to people that don't understand what you're doing. When you jumped into your business, what led you into being able to gradually do it with peace and happiness?
I am just a huge proponent of I've said to my friends, follow the peace, right? So peace is what you have to choose every single day. And so it's been something that I've done my entire life. Is I have chosen, I'm going to follow the peace. Where there is discord, where there is disruption, where there is overwhelming things that are not going to enrich my life, I'm not interested. And so I've chosen to follow the peace, follow the happiness for my own life, for my own business. And I integrate that in a lot of ways, my self-care, the way that I operate my business. Of course, in the beginning, like everyone, I was a full-on workaholic, but I learned that actually didn't make me any more productive. And so I've learned over the years that me being more productive, my productivity, my efficiency, and my effectiveness are
Right.
all heightened when I am peaceful and when I am happy and when I set boundaries and when I implement self-care. And so that's the journey I'm on now.
That sounds amazing. I'm definitely gonna follow those tips because, like I repeatedly say, as a young person, we definitely find successful individuals that we can look up to, so we can also become an entrepreneur and we can build our own empire as well. Thinking big as a small business, I looked into that as well on your profile, and I enjoy the content that you actually brought to that. It helped me a lot when it came to organizing my Instagram and organizing basically behind the scenes of my podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So, what good tips can you give listeners when they are thinking big as a small business?
I think a big part of it is what I spoke about in the clip that you saw, which is the planning side of it. I think that so often we spend a lot of times just letting business come at us, letting life come at us. And no matter how large or small your business is, you need to plan. Now, I'm not saying you need a business plan because that is something that has held people up for years, right? They're trying to write this long business plan and they can't write it. And so they never start the business. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about planning for your business. What does it look like? How many, what does it look like? So for instance, I think it's your cousin or your friend or your sister with the eyelash thing, right? So what does it look like when I have this many appointments? What does it look like when I have fewer appointments? What does my team look like in order for me to accomplish this goal and still have sanity, right? So I think the thing that gives you a level of sanity, I know for me, is when I have sat down and thought about different scenarios, how they could come about, and how I will be able to respond to them. So then when they do happen, I'm like, oh, I'm ready for this, or I knew, this would happen.
Oh, you're definitely a breath of fresh air and confidence. Like, I'm very excited listening to you because I'm definitely grabbing some good tips, good information, and things I can definitely use down the future. I definitely want to speak about problems when it comes in a business, when it comes to being able to go about seeing what my solution is on how to be more confident and flow with my words when it comes to my interviews.
Sure. Well, one of the things that obviously preparation is key. And I know you're prepared. So when you have that, in your back pocket, you've prepared, what you want to ask, all of those things, and you have that in your back pocket. The other thing is just reaffirming yourself. One of the things that I have found for myself and that I have shared with others is very often our fears or our anxiety come from a what if factor. What if I mess up? What if I don't do this right? What if the rest of my verbiage doesn't come out right? What if this podcast isn't good because I didn't ask the question right? Right? So your mind is running ahead to all of that. And one of the things that I affirm myself often, I have a couple that I do specifically for me, I share with others. One of them is when I get into a situation that I think is daunting or potentially too large for me, I usually find a mirror. If I can't, then I just find a space where I can be quiet and I say, Mazda, you're prepared for this. You were born for this, right? And so I kind of talk to myself into saying, like, you were made for this. This is your moment. You won't fail. So I have these discussions with myself. And another one that I do in centering myself in the moment is I simply ask myself a couple questions. And those questions are, where is it? Where I always say, what time is it now? Where are you? I'm here. What are you doing? And I center myself around what I'm doing in that moment and who I am in that moment. And that tends to ease the anxiety of the forward thinking concern around failure. So those are my tricks.
Oh, I love those tricks. I'm definitely going to get into those. As a beautiful Black queen, I definitely want to speak on the topic of being a Black woman and being an advocate for us as well. And that's another thing that makes you a big inspiration when it comes to me and being able to grow as a podcaster and even an entrepreneur. But I definitely want to get your opinion on Kamala Harris simply because I believe this is a big reach for us because we just see Michelle Obama leave the house and now we see another beautiful Black woman come in. So how can we use that encouragement and just a new feel as a motivation for the next 4 years to show that we can really build ourselves?
Yeah, so here's the deal. I have been speaking about this on my like personal platform, like my personal Facebook, where my family and high school friends are. And it actually blew up into like a little bit of a big thing, because one of the first things that I said out of the gate, when she was selected as Biden's running mate, was, this is a historical moment for Black women and women of color. And I was like, I'm sure that there are many people who have preferences, opinions, and different political views. And I am respectful of all of those views. But right now, what I'm going to celebrate is that we are having a historic moment where a Black woman, a woman of mixed background with her Caribbean and Indian background, but Black and Indian background, right, has this opportunity. This has never happened before. If she doesn't make it into office, right? And I'm not saying if it will or will not happen. I'm not even going to talk about my personal political views, because I stay out of that. But if she doesn't, we're still going to celebrate this moment. We're not going to tear this Black woman down. What we're not going to do is use this as an opportunity to pick her apart just because she's a woman, just because she's a Black woman. We're going to let her stand on her own 2 feet for what she brings to this country, whether or not she makes it to that office. And so I think what's really important is that we embrace that. We take the win. The win for us is the nomination. Yes, she may ascend to that office, and we will take that win if that comes, because it will also be historic. But we take this win. We believe that things are shifting. We continue to protest and speak out and step up for Black women and women of color, and Black people, right, around the world. We continue to take that win. So that's my thought on it.
Well, I definitely appreciate your thought. I love the enforcement that you had in it, because it's truly appreciated. I love the comment that you made about her mixed race, because a lot of people don't know that. In the news, they just speak about her being a Black woman. So you speaking about her multi-race, I just viewed that as she's not just a face for African American women. She is the face of all melanin women, everybody with melanin skin.
Absolutely.
I definitely want to jump into the open conversation. It's about American issues such as equality that affects the future of tomorrow. And I love bringing this conversation into my podcast, because as a 21-year-old living in America and living the life that I do, I definitely want to see things change around for the future of tomorrow. And as everybody that I speak to, I do believe everybody is an activist, and people, especially you, people watch you, listen to you, and definitely learn by you. So I just want to understand, what is your view and vision on what's going on, and how do you think, as young people or even older people in the older generation, how can we fix it so we can come together? And I'm pretty sure everybody understands it's not a tomorrow fix situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's not, it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's going to happen over time. And if we are consistent and persistent about our future. One of the things that's really big to me, that I had, that is, when people ask me, what do I think is, central to change? One of the things that I think is central to change is education. I'm sorry, but I grew up and didn't know all the history. Nobody knows all the history. I think that it's unfortunate, but there's a part of me that believes that some of the folks that are at a certain age and feel a certain way, they will not change. I feel that energy is somewhat wasted there. I'm not going to argue with a 70-year-old, white man who grew up in the South who is racist. There's no need. I'm not going to change his mind. All I'm doing is shifting my own energy. But what I hope is that my activism and my speaking out and me bombarding legislation at the local level, that's a big part, is that, a lot of times we are focused federally, but the things that are happening, the way America is set up, you need to understand civics. You need to understand government. We were created as kind of decentralized, right? So the power is in it's, state, municipality. That's where the power is. That's whose, phones you need to be ringing. That's whose offices you need to be showing up to. And that's who you need to bombard and say, hey, listen, history is not appropriate. It's not correct. It's not factual in our schools. And I want young people, that's my thing, is I want the young people to learn the true history and learn the truth about how we should be treating one another. Because in my personal opinion, I think that's a big part of the change. Now, that's a big part of the long-term change. And then I feel like right now, the young people, the millennials, even Xennials, which I'm an Xennial, I'm really not old. We,
No.
I'm really not old. I'm just a little bit above the millennials, like 2 years. But we are protesting. We are going to our legislators. We are learning about civics and government, and we are, pushing further than just, voting in a presidential election. We are, activating. We are doing the work. We are speaking out. We are educating people. We are writing books. We are building brands. We are building businesses to change the economic, the economic reality for our communities. And I think those are all the important things that we have to do. We buy black, the only way that we're going to be able to continue to, raise our community is by having that love and that understanding around that it's necessary, for us to support one another.
Definitely. Behind the local level, I definitely agree with you. And by my understanding, where I'm from, I think we definitely see beyond that, which is a bad thing. I definitely think we are taught to just see the president and voting and see it and believing that that's important to our life, then understanding that we need to go to our local mayor and we need to go to our local townsmen, the people who actually regulate us and see us every morning, so before we hit the top. So that is definitely good information, and I'm definitely going to bring that to my peers because, like I said, I am a big advocate for change. I'm not happy what's going on, but I definitely want to see a brighter future for us because that's what's important for me. We're definitely coming to the end of the interview. I have short little interviews.
No, it's great. That means that's great. Mine are usually only like 20 to 25 minutes on podcast. You'll see that people will listen. They'll stay tuned. So that's good for you. That's good for you. You have a 3-hour podcast. You're not going to keep them on the whole time. So
right. I just want to ask you a personal question. Do you have any personal tips for me as I continue being a new podcaster and growing? A little background about me. I am in school for media communication, so that is kind of my major, what I'm doing. But just as somebody doing it, when I built this podcast, I built my own studio by myself by working. And this is something I look for as my future job. I started this and I don't see myself getting out of it. So do you have any tips for me as I build and grow my business and as I call it my castle?
Yes, I love it. So I would say to stay the course, to, like I said earlier, build out the plan. What does it look like? What are your goals in 6 months, a year, 3 years, right? I wouldn't go too much further than that because, things change so much. So build your plan. Know what you want your business to look like, all the way from income to your team, every part of that. I think that's number one. I think number two is continuing to build your network and your tribe around you. So, everybody loves, a college student that is about their business, right? So the people that you'll want to reach out to that may be in the industry, or they're going to be very, very open and complimentary to you right now. Use that, right? Everybody wants to help a young person who's learning. So use that and stay connected, not just when you need something. Stay connected just to stay connected, because people will feel your sincerity and your genuineness when you're like, hey, I just saw this article and it made me think of you, or hey, I saw you in the news and congratulations. They're going to keep you top of mind. And when that time does come that they need something, or that you need something, their ears will be open.
Thank you so much for that. I do appreciate that. And I appreciate you taking out the time to talk to me because I know I'm new into the industry, as people will say, and I know you've been started. So I definitely want to greatly say thank you for taking the time out, for answering me, for answering my emails and my call.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Roommates, you know how we do it. We do our change challenge. This change challenge is a little personal. Because of Miss Mazda Miles, I want everybody to just dig into their inner self and pull out something that you always wanted to do, even if you started it and never finished it, even if you finished it and never went on with it. I want you to start that business, start that talent that you have, start it back up with confidence, start it back up with ease and with persistence. Be confident in yourself and be able to be comfortable telling everybody what you do, just for the great support and appreciation and the love behind your hobby or business. So once again, the change challenge is look into yourself, start something or finish something that you already begun that means something personal to you or will bring you great gratification in the future. Thank you so much. I do definitely look up to you as a podcaster. I do look into your tips. I use them in my everyday studies, my organization, and in my business behind the scene on my podcast. So thank you so much, and I enjoy speaking with you.
Wonderful. Me too.
Have a good day, okay?
You too. Bye.